Good morning. Thank you for joining with me. We are in A Course in Miracles workbook for students, part 2 of the workbook, section 14, What Am I? And this is lesson 356. Sickness is but another name for sin. Healing is but another name for God. The miracle is thus a call to Him. Footnote 188. Because the miracle brings healing, and healing is another name for God, the miracle is a way of saying or calling God's name. Father, you promised me you would never fail to answer any call your Son might make to you. It does not matter where he is, what seems to be his problem, or what he believes he has become. He is your Son, and you will answer him. The miracle reflects your love, and thus it answers him. Your name replaces every thought of sin, and who is sinless cannot suffer pain. Your name gives answer to your Son, because to call your name is to but call his own. This is Robert Perry's practice suggestion for lesson 356. I have found it helpful to reword the final line. Instead of, a miracle is thus a call to Him, I say to heal is thus to speak His name. It seems to me the Course is always equating things you don't expect to be equated, like it does here. Sickness is another name for sin. Healing is another name for God. And toward the end of the lesson, to call your name is to but call his own. That is, the Son's own name or my own name. The Course suggests that when we find God, we will have found ourself, and when we find ourself, we will have found God. We and God share the same name. It seems to be constantly saying that things we believe are quite different are in reality the same. Its advice for a new year is make this year different by making it all the same. The Course is constantly boiling everything down to just one problem, the separation, and one solution, the atonement. And it tells us that complexity is of the ego, therefore simplicity is of God. How are sickness and sin the same thing? First, dispense with what this does not mean, that being sick is a sin. Anyone who has gone through the entire workbook and studied the text cannot possibly hold that mistaken understanding. That is most definitely not the meaning here. There is no such thing as sin. We only imagine there is. This lesson is most emphatically not saying that if you are sick, it is because you are a sinful person, or that being sick makes you a sinner. Being sick is nothing to be guilty about. If you are sick and anyone even suggests to you that you must be doing something wrong because spiritual people don't get sick, stop listening to that person. The thoughts of our minds do indeed cause sickness. All sickness is mental illness. According to the psychotherapy supplement, can't speak today. But mistaken thoughts are not sin, they are simply mistaken. When the lesson says that sickness is another name for sin, it means that the sickness of the body is a reflection or manifestation of the mind's belief in the reality of sin. Sickness, says the Course, can be a kind of self-punishment in which we attack ourselves because of our guilt, hoping thereby to avert the punishment of God we are expecting. Sickness is anger taken out on the body so that it will suffer pain. I believe that when the Course uses the word sickness, it is usually referring to the thought of sickness and not to the physical symptoms. Sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body. A crippled limb, for instance, can be used by the ego to further thoughts of inadequacy, guilt, and separation, or it can be used by the Holy Spirit to break a person's identification with the body and to turn them to God. It is the thought and only the thought which is important. Sickness is a defense against the truth. We have to remember that in the thought system of the Course, everything, including sickness, is a choice we have made, and that choices must have some purpose behind them. The important thing is not the physical symptom. The important thing is the choice and the purpose behind it. When we choose to be sick at some level, we are choosing to identify ourselves as a body rather than spirit or mind. The truth we are defending against is that we are a spirit or mind. We are defending against the realization that we are one with God and with everyone else in God. The strange, haunting thought that we might be something beyond this little pile of dust is silenced and stilled when we are sick. Sickness makes the body seem very real, the only real thing. It seeks to let the illusion of the bodily identity take the place of the truth of our mind, our spiritual identity. How is that like sin? According to the workbook, sin is the means by which the mind seeks to let illusions take the place of truth. That is exactly what sickness does. When I see sin in myself or in a brother, it proves the sinner is evil and therefore separate from God. When I see sickness in myself or in another, it proves the body is real and therefore separate from God. Sin and sickness are the same in that both are means that the mind uses to try to prove that separation is real. They are not the same thing in form, but they are identical in purpose. They are both the ego's attempt to prove that what I am not. It is the thought of separation which the Course aims to heal, not the physical symptom of sickness, and not the specific behavior of a person. The Course is concerned with the cause, not the effect. I do believe that if the mind is healed, if the person is healed on the level of thought, which is the level of cause, it will often result in changes in the form of the person's life. Behavior will often change when thoughts change. Physical health will often improve when thoughts change. The change on the level of the body, however, is never the concern of the Course. The body is insignificant, which means it is without meaning. If the body is insignificant, it means that the body signifies nothing. If our thoughts align with God's thoughts, the body will serve the purpose of the Holy Spirit, whatever its form, even if the body dies. The Course is concerned only with the healing of the mind because the body does not matter. Healing is but another name for God. To heal the mind, therefore, means to recognize the identity of my mind and God's mind. To be healed is to recognize that I share God's nature. When the Course talks of healing, it is not talking about getting over the flu. It is talking about letting go of my identification with this body that appears to be suffering chills and fever. Recognizing that the body is not myself, but I am the eternal Son of God. It is speaking, as always, of a change of mind. When the identity of myself and my body is broken, I will know that what happens to the body does not affect who I really am. Therefore, what happens to the body does not matter to me. It may get well and it may not. If I am no longer identified with it, I don't care which it is. Sin and sickness are the same thing in the sense that both are manifestations of our belief in separation and our resulting but mistaken guilt. They are both healed through the miracle of forgiveness. Healing is a return to wholeness, a return to our true self. And since our self is one with God, all healing is a return to God. To offer a miracle of forgiveness or healing is thus a call to Him. Another way of putting this is that all healing leads to God in the end, even if we are not thinking of or believing in God as we experience it. If it is healing, it is of God. The psychotherapy supplement says the patient need not think of truth as God in order to make progress in salvation. If there is healing and if there is forgiveness instead of condemnation, God is there even if he is not named or acknowledged. Everyone who learns to forgive Everyone who learns to forgive will remember God. It does not matter where he is, what seems to be his problem, nor what he believes he has become. God answers when we call, even when we don't realize we are calling him. He answers even when we think we do not deserve an answer. I believe there are hundreds of times we have called on God and he has answered, and we never made the connection. We failed to recognize even him as we received his help. Our very pain and fear, the Course says, is a call for help. Do you imagine that if the Holy Spirit recognizes all calls for help as they are, that he does not answer every one of them? He is your Son, and you will answer him. He answers us with his name, which is a shorthand way of saying his being or his nature. We are answered by what God is, because what he is what we are as his Son. Is what we as his Son are. God is without sin, and so are we without sin we cannot be sick, because sickness comes from the belief in sin. When I realize my total innocence, I cannot suffer pain. God's name is what speaks to me of that innocence and tells me it must be so. How could God's offspring be unholy? Let me learn then to call on God, whether I use that word or not. Let me open my heart to innocence, gentleness, and mercy. Let me make healing my aim for myself and for others. In every encounter today, let me remember I am here to heal. I am here to offer miracles. I am here to release from guilt. Now please join me in the meditation if you'd like to close your eyes. Sickness is but another name for sin. Healing is but another name for God. The miracle is thus a call to him. Father, you promised you would never fail to answer any call your Son might make to you. It does not matter where he is, what seems to be his problem, or what he believes he has become. He is your Son, and you will answer him. The miracle reflects your love, and thus it answers him. Your name replaces every thought of sin, and who is sinless cannot suffer pain. Your name gives answer to your Son, because to call your name is but to call his own. Sickness is but another name for sin. Healing is but another name for God. The miracle is thus a call to him. So much for joining with me in the meditation. Now we will read Alan Watson's commentary on What Am I, paragraph 3, sentences 5 through 7. Our function then is to bring salvation to the world. We do not seek a function that is past the gate of heaven. In other words, we do not disdain this lowly calling of bringing healing to this world of form. We do not try to claim that we are fulfilling our function of creating, which is our function in heaven, and cannot be bothered with the base forms within the illusion. Doing that is what one of my old Christian teachers used to call being too heavenly minded to be of any earthly use. Knowledge will return when we have done our part. Knowledge refers to the perfection of heaven, a direct knowing of the truth, rather than the lower avenue of perception of forms. Our part is to purify our perception of forms. Our part is to work within the illusion, to turn the nightmare into a happy dream. Only when we have done this will knowledge return. We are concerned only with giving welcome to the truth. We are not trying to directly apprehend the truth. We are not forced on having mystical experiences of God, on bypassing the world of form and leaving it behind. Although, to be sure, we do seek to enter the holy instant frequently to renew our vision of heaven. Our primary concern, however, is on giving welcome to the truth. That is, preparing ourselves for it, making things ready for it, educating ourselves to accept it. And that is something that goes on within this world, within this illusion we call physical life. Here, the many holy instants we experience, and which we desire to experience above all things, lead to a result. The Holy Spirit sends us out in the busy doing here within the world, carrying with us the quiet center we have found in the holy instant, and sharing it with the world. Thank you so much for joining with me in this lesson 356. Sickness is but another name for sin. Healing is but another name for God. The miracle is thus a call to Him. I love you. Thank you for joining with me. I apologize for my many blurps today. Bloopers. I love you.